Welcome back to the Pitch Pod. I'm Jeff Stebbins, and today we are talking all things soccer football. We're going to focus on La Liga. But before we head there, it's important to note the excitement of this time of year for soccer, and football. This is an exciting time. This is when we're on the verge of the NWSL starting back up. We're on the verge of the MLS stateside as well, starting back up. So if you're an American soccer fan, this is an exciting time of year as we are approaching the World Cup on home soil. So this is going to be fun all around there. Plus, international football, Champions League. We're now in the playoffs. And this is where it gets exciting with the different legs, and teams start to get eliminated after the second leg, and we're getting closer and closer there to the quarterfinals and semifinals of the Champions League, which is going to be really exciting this year with the teams that they have in it and the level of talent available in this tournament. It's going to be great. But I want to focus on La Liga for a few reasons. Number one, it's kind of predictable, but at this point in the season, right around match day 24, we have Real Madrid, we have Barcelona at the top of the table, right? I don't think anyone was going to argue that. Maybe you could see one of those teams switching out with Atletico, but even then, that's kind of a stretch, I think, in La Liga. But as we sit, Barcelona is currently in first with 58 points. Real Madrid in second, right on their tail at 57. And then Atletico, they've been climbing the charts. Atletico Madrid, they are now in third. And Villarreal has dropped off a little bit. But it's still close between that third and fourth spot with Real Betis in fifth. Both Barcelona and Madrid have just been on win streaks lately with large goal differentials. At this point in the season, I think it's pretty safe to say they're going to finish 1 and 2, even though Atletico is going to make a run and do their best. I just think it's too late in the season for them to end up in the top two. I think they'll probably remain at that third spot by holding off Villarreal. But yeah, it's looking more and more like it's going to be Barcelona, Real Madrid taking this thing for the La Liga title. Both teams extremely talented in the midfield and up top. They're solid defensively, but I think most people would recognize that in their 4-3-3 formations, the midfield and the attack just stands out on both ends. The front three are dangerous on both sides. You have the veteran Lewandowski up top for Barcelona, and you have some young players around him supporting him, but he's an important part of that team as the leader. But you also have Real, you have a whole variety of options there. And then Real Madrid on the other side, the whole team is stacked. But like I said, I think it's their midfield and their attack that is what really separates them from the other La Liga teams, with star power, Mbappe, Vinicius Jr., both those players extremely fast. You have Bellingham, very versatile. He doesn't always have to score to make an impact. He can also assist and facilitate the ball very well. And so, again, the list goes on and on. Both teams just stacked. But the question here is which team's going to end up taking the title? Because right now they're pretty darn close points-wise. Again, 1 and 2 at the table. We're kind of approaching that last third of the season. So which team's going to separate from the other? And I don't think it's clear-cut by any means, but I think you have to go with Real Madrid taking this. If Mbappe stays healthy, which I would anticipate him to, I think that the other players on the team have been solid and have been stepping up in their roles, and when he's been out, then Vinicius is the guy, and he can score from a variety of positions, but of course he's really strong on that left-hand side, right? And they can move Bellingham up or back depending on what they need to do. So I'm going with Real Madrid with the caveat there that factors in Mbappe being healthy. I think he's still one of the best players in the world, and I think this upcoming World Cup is going to put that on full display again. But that would be my bet, just because you can't bet against that team, basically. So that's not to say that Barcelona is not going to go really far in Champions League, but in terms of La Liga and the depth of what Real Madrid has to work with, I have them taking the title. And it's going to be close, like it is in most years, between these two powerhouses. But I think you have to go with the team that is has a little bit more youth and speed on its side overall, despite the fact that on the other side they have great leadership and veteran players like Lewandowski leading the team to success. So that's what I'm going with. I just don't think that there's a whole lot of teams in the world that can compete physically with Real Madrid. They are the club right now that is dangerous. Of course, European football, you got to factor in those teams as well as being very dangerous, which is also on display in the Champions League. Arsenal, Man City, they're duking it out. But in terms of La Liga, it's Real Madrid. They're going to take this thing. Which brings to the front some questions, right? What does Barcelona have to do for the next season? Not to look ahead yet, but if they're going to end up taking the title back from Real Madrid, they might have to mix some things up, and maybe they end up hitting the transfer market really hard, or trading off some certain players before it's their expiration date and trying to mix things up a little bit. Maybe even focus on the defense, right? If you can't beat Real Madrid offensively, well, maybe you find a strong defense that kind of limits the opposition and helps keep Barcelona's goal differential high as they approach the end of the season. But that's looking far ahead, and we still got a lot of ways to go as La Liga is finishing it up. And either way, it's going to be a fun end to this season, and it's an exciting time for all soccer football fans right now with everything going on. So hopefully you get a chance, if not to tune into La Liga, to continue tuning in to what's happening in the Champions League. And like I said, if you're stateside, well, we got a whole bunch of stuff happening on our home soil here in these next couple months that should keep you well and entertained. So as always, thank you for tuning in. If you get a chance, please hit that like and that subscribe. And we hope to see you next time.